Okay, hi. Good evening, everyone. This is Steve Anderson, and I am here at my home tonight. So we're still not having our meetings live in the pharmacy with some of the COVID restrictions and meetings and such. So we'll keep in touch on our site. Look at in the future as we get along down the road here and see how things go as far as some of the rules and regs are on that too, and we'll have a notation on there too when we will be resuming in the pharmacy in the future too. I assume it'll be within a couple months. Again, our meetings are in our pharmacy. We can't have a lot of people in there anyway, so it's a small meeting. So just look for that in the future, and we'll go from there. But tonight, here we are. So anyway, thank you for joining me tonight. We're gonna go talk about some LDN or low dose naltrexone. I know just from the past that some of those, many of those hooking in have already started on low dose naltrexone and have some, just want to find out some more information on it, have some questions on maybe personally on some of the aspects that they're noticing with it and dosing and such. So hopefully we can help information there. And again, some of those that are just starting to look down this journey as a possibility for their health, hopefully this will be a good starting point for you. What I'd like to say is, the meeting tonight will just keep it a little bit shorter, go over some of the core questions, basic questions that most of the time we get asked. And just to let you know that, call anytime, any of you, if you have any questions on this. Like I said, if there's anything beyond what we discussed tonight, if you have a little more particular on a specific situation for you or a loved one, give us a call in the pharmacy. We'll talk with you then. You could email us, send us a message on Facebook if you have any questions. We'll get back to you on that. And even tonight, we'll see if there's, depending on how many questions pop up, we may get to some of them now, or if not, I will just get back to you tomorrow and hopefully go over whatever you'd like. So what is compounding? If for some of you that maybe don't know much about our pharmacy, we are a compounding only pharmacy. Which means compounded medications are those that are made from scratch. We're asked, we get orders, they're prescriptions, and so what types of things get compounded? Well, we do a lot of low dose naltrexone. We get a lot of prescriptions for bioidentical natural hormone therapy. So estrogen, progesterone, testosterone for women and for men. We get prescriptions for veterinary or pediatric patients, typically being a small in size and small weight. The doses that they need are not what an adult needs, and if it's hard to give 1/10 of a tablet, so we'll end up making it into a liquid form possibly, or if we get the powder, we can make it into capsule, or however they want to get it in. Topical medications, wart preparations, just if somebody's has allergies or sensitivities to any component of a medication. It could be the dye, could be maybe one of the fillers is propylene glycol or some other chemical that is troublesome for them. We get asked to compound by their doctor into a allergy-free form. So that's what we end up working with patients with special needs in those areas as well, or the dose they need is unavailable commercially and they need a in-between dose, then that's really particular. That is something else as well. So as far as the low dose naltrexone goes, how did we get into compounding this and working with practitioners that prescribe this? I guess it's as a medication that has a wide range of applications, and it ends up being an option, pretty positive or successful option for many of those people that have some of these conditions that sometimes are hard to treat. we get calls to a prescription form from a whole variety of practitioners, from general practitioners to specialists. And some of the prescriptions and circumstances and conditions that are being prescribed for are fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, lupus, psoriasis, depression, anxiety, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, even into the oncology and cancer sides. There is research and there is studies on usage and success in all of these conditions. So really, technically, any autoimmune pain, inflammatory condition, or even just in some of the mental illness type situations, autism, ADD. I mean, we do get prescriptions for all ages of those, even younger children, grade school type age. So that the application of it is wide, and so that the question is, how does one thing touch and work on all those things? That doesn't make any sense. If it's too good to be true, it must not be true. I guess the application or it's indicated, or it helps in all those things too, because its effect in the body is surprisingly wide range. First off, let's go into so if you look on Google naltrexone, just the drug chemical naltrexone, you'll see that it's been around for almost 50 years. It's a synthetic drug that was put together to deal with opioid addiction or alcoholism. The naltrexone chemical, what it does, it blocks the opioid site or endorphin receptor in the body. So if somebody's in treatment, they are given the naltrexone, and when it's in the body, it's dosed a few times a day. It'll block that receptor, so if somebody would happen to try to sneak and get an opioid or some alcohol while they're on the drug, it just won't work. It just doesn't get to the site. It just doesn't do anything. So that was the original focus of the drug. How did it come about for this low dose naltrexone, or LDN? Well, it was like a lot of scientific discoveries. It was a happy accident. For whatever reason, years ago, in it's an interesting story. In one clinic in New York City, they had a lot of patients in there, and ill patients. It was HIV patients. A good portion of them had acquired it, through the ways it was required and normally acquired, and then a good portion of them were from IV drug users, and the patients with the IV drug use were on naltrexone. And somewhat over time, or maybe it's because of side effects, I don't know exactly the reason, but they begin to use lower doses of the naltrexone. Again, probably for toleration part was a big part of it. What they discovered was the patients, HIV patients without naltrexone, were dying quickly, in the fashion what they normally saw with it. But surprisingly, the patients that were on the naltrexone, especially when they were using the lower dose, they weren't dying in the same fashion as the other cohort of the hospital clinic. They were, surprisingly, they were alive, a year later, a year and a half later, 2 years later, and they noted that there was improvements in other aspects of their pain was better, this was better, that was better. So a doctor that was paying attention, made note of that, and from that, long story short, he started said, well, if it's doing this in these patients, why wouldn't it help my other patients with pain and inflammation, etc.? And it's so it's evolved to that, through this kind of scientific discovery, to this low dose level. And at this low dose level, it's just for unbeknownst to them, and they it's not completely known why it happens, but they do know what is occurring when it's at this low dose. It's working, on several different levels in the body. Probably the main thing it does is, through a fashion, it increases the endorphin and enkephalin levels in the body. That's really its main push. What some of the studies offices have looked at, those patients with fibromyalgia or rheumatoid arthritis or multiple sclerosis, their endorphin levels are very low, in the 20% of normal range is what some of the research showed. So when they take the low-dose naltrexone, it increases their endorphin levels by 200 to 300%. So they're getting up into the normal range of where things are, and with that increase, they begin to notice, if you look at what all endorphins and enkephalins do in the body, they're involved in pain. So it's like our body's own morphine particles. And it also has, it moves into the immune system and has immune system modulating effects. So it's increasing the several anti-inflammatory markers in the body and decreasing the pro-inflammatory markers. So it's put them in a better ratio to get things under control. It also has positive effects on the gastrointestinal system, which basically helps detox, takes inflammation down, helps heal it up. So it's even those patients with ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, it has positive effects on those and moves it to a better state too. And that, there's immune system connections between the gastrointestinal system and the immune system. It also is, having effects on communication with the endocrine system, they found too, in positive ways. And the literature showed, and we've seen it in the last couple of years in the numerous patients that have begun on it too. Some of them, as they begin to get their thyroid labs taken, they improve where they have to lower their thyroid dose. We have those, males and females. We'll notice the females that begin taking it for other things. We've seen number of younger females that are cycling, high school age and older, where they begin taking it for other conditions, and they'll begin to note that their menstrual cycle becomes more balanced and in better level, and less troublesome effects with PMS and things of that nature. And again, with men, testosterone levels, it just has a positive influence on the hormones through its communications, somehow, and they notice improvements as well. So so it's really touching on numerous aspects and systems in the body, to all in conjunction, working together to get to a better state. So what is it prescribed for? I think we talked about all that. What is the next question that many has is, what is the dosage? What's the best dosage? And we'll get asked that from practitioners that are been asked about and beginning to look at using it in some of their patients. And we don't know what the best dose is for any one individual. It's an individual dosing is what we do. There, you have to find the best dose for the person. It's what that's really kind of evolving in the dosing strategies, and pretty much heavily over the last couple of years, is just starting at lower dosing. They're just finding that lower dosing kind of opens up different avenues of health, physical, mental, or emotional health. So particularly in the mental health side of things. So we've really noticed that, again, like I mentioned, we're getting calls for mood and anxiety and focus and clarity and that sort of conditions. And starting in at the low levels, that it seems that people begin to note fairly quickly, as we follow up with people within the first month, we've been noticing, probably in the 75, 80 some percent range, that within the first month, most of them, as we follow up with them, they relate, I'm just feeling better. My mood's better. I just have a little more energy. I just feel I'm in a better place. If somebody is having some arthritic pain, fibro pain, and that may not have done much the first month. Some of these things with the pain and chronic pain might take a number of months to start gradually coming into play, but most will note up front that they are feeling better, and who doesn't want that? So they're very happy with that, and it makes it easier to be patient with the dosing, and that allows it to get to the level where we start noticing the reduction in pain and inflammation and whatever the other conditions that are involved with that. So typical dosing that we'll see is starting low and tapering up, and whenever you go to the dose where the symptoms begin to start balancing out and leveling off then too. So the symptoms are a big part of it. There's not necessarily any labs values or lab testing that necessarily have to be done. It can be done, and just the symptoms are typically telling you there's progress with things. If there are some of these inflammatory lab values that are done, and I'm not even sure what they are, there are SED rates or C-reactive protein or RA factor, things of that nature. Those correspond with the symptoms improving. The patients that come in as they're down the road, as they're doing better, they'll say, yeah, my RA number went down, or my thyroid antibody number was really high, and that's starting to come into play. So, but their symptoms, it's not just a number chasing. Their symptoms are actually telling them that they're feeling better, and the number just is following as well. So, but that's where as far as finding out the right dose, that's where we are there to help. We'll be consulting with you as you're getting your prescriptions. We'll be following up every couple of weeks to start. You'll be talking to us when you get refills, and just as far as the dose, there are several practitioners we work with that they'll let us work with the patient and them, and just go up and down on the dose and titrate it or taper it to whatever dose that works best. I mean, what we've and it's found it to be really beneficial in that fashion to hone in on the dose. So you can't guess what anybody's dose is, and it does vary a lot. There are surprising cases where sometimes somebody that's had long-term pain for many, many years at a low dose will notice significant reduction in pain, and there's others that it just takes a while. They may not notice much of a change for months and months, but it's almost like a light switch turns on at some point where it just begins. It's noticing it's helping. They say, oh, it just kicked in now, but we say, well, it's kind of been kicking in all along. It just took a little while to get there. So, so we'll, the range of the dosing is pretty tight. The high dose naltrexone, if you look, the dosing on that is 50, 100 milligrams up to a couple times a day, depending on circumstances. The dosing of the low dose naltrexone is a half a milligram, 1 milligram, up to maybe 5 or 6 as a rule, is as high as they'll go. We're also seeing very significant benefit with dosing twice a day. Getting a good dose in the morning has very good effects on a low dose in the morning on mood and energy, and it just helps people get going for the day. And then if there's some inflammation and pain, etc., the PM dose will be typically, the experts suggest increasing that till you get to the point where you notice improvements on that side of things. So that's as far as the dosing. Okay, and as far as results, we notice sometimes people within a few days begin to notice some things. That's not unusual. It's a minor changes and stuff, but typically within the first month or two, for many, they relate to us a high percent that they're beginning to notice some changes on that. For the majority of them are noticing some moves in the right direction. Sometimes it's minor, it's not significant, but they are significant enough to be patient and say, hey, I think we might be onto this. I haven't had anything else up to this point that's been that beneficial, so I'm willing to give this a shot. I've read the literature, seen the success. I mean, we just try to tell patients, people just to be patient and just give it time. I mean, because once you get there, you're there, and it has positive effects on leveling things off in the system, and really you're moving things to better states with it. Okay, side effects. What are the side effects? There's really not much to speak of there. I've been to a few conferences on low-dose naltrexone across the country, and when the experts, the docs presenting up there asking that, they kind of shrug their shoulders and say, there really isn't much for side effects. Up front, some things will be noticed. Typically when we start on the lower dosing, we can avoid this, but it would be on the immune system, on the gastrointestinal side. Some people will notice a little upset stomach, gastrointestinal distress, just a little bit of discomfort, maybe a little queasiness. It's working on the gastrointestinal system, kind of detoxing a little bit, pushing things a little bit. So it's pushing the immune system a little bit, but that's temporary and short term, and it'll go away. If somebody does have a little more significant issue there, it doesn't happen often. We just move to a little lower dose for a while just to ease it into the body, let it kind of catch up with things, and then proceed tapering up to find their best dose. The other issue that may happen initially is more on the sleep side of things. So if they get to a PM dose or an evening dose on that, sometimes in the early stages, again, it can throw off sleep a little bit, where one of the issues on that might be just because, again, with the initial part, it might be disturbing or upsetting the stomach a little bit. So that little bit of queasiness will kind of keep people up. Or on the other side, again, it's huge increase in the endorphin level will keep them awake at night too, because the endorphins can give them a little bit of energy and they just don't feel like sleeping. So with those cases on that, if they are taking it twice a day dosing and they have to take a PM dose, we'll just slide it back to supper time and just take it earlier in the evening, and that'll subside that thing. But both of those go away and you don't really come back. And sometimes people, you'll note if you do some research and reading on it, they'll have some kind of vivid and weird dreams. Not nightmares or terrors is not reported, but just kind of weird, colorful dreams, which is probably a factor of just a little better sleep is what they believe. So, as far as, and just to remind you, it is a prescription. It has to be prescribed. And the question is, well, will my doctor know about this? Can my doctor prescribe this? And, there's a lot of doctors that are familiar with it and many that aren't. The one issue with where that comes in is it's not a commercially made item. It's not made by a drug company. So the information's not in the drug journals. It's not in the papers that come out that are where we get in the doctor's office and we get in the pharmacy as well. And there's not a sales rep that's going around with the current research and studies and data that they have in the other drugs too, to let doctors inform them and remind them of medication. So it's not on the radar of medical information as all the other commercial made drugs are. So but there's plenty of information and literature out there. There's actually over 1,200 PubMed articles on the use of low-dose naltrexone for, I think it's over 150 different conditions that they've done studies on to find if it's beneficial for that or not. So that's really is a lot of literature and research on it, and getting into the technical aspect of what it's exactly doing in the immune system level and the endocrine system level. It's in the literature. I mean, it's some of it's immunology stuff. It's over my head, to completely spew it out. But there's plenty of information there if somebody wants to look for it. So. I guess if you have a doctor that you want to ask about it, I have a big folder of information that has been put together by some of the experts at the conferences with the research, the immunology, what it's actually doing, and a number of the studies that they have out there for its use in different conditions too. So if you have a practitioner that would be interested in looking at that, we'd be more than happy to get that together and get it to your practitioner. I do have numerous studies and research on download on my computer where I can email it to the doctor just for a beginning point of information, and there's a couple of websites that pretty much have all the research and study on it that I can refer to as well. So I guess, like we said at the beginning, if you have any questions on anything in particular on low-dose naltrexone, please give us a call at the pharmacy. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions the best we can. You could email us with your questions if you have a particular specific question on yourself or someone or on Facebook here. You could just message us on Facebook and we will get back to you with that information. So I hope that's just a little bit helpful to give you an idea on just a little core basics on the low-dose naltrexone. And I guess all I can say is that they literally can be prescribed for any condition. It's not, I guess people always wanted the price. It's not very expensive depending on whether a person's taking it once a day, twice a day. If you get a 1 month supply, 3 month supply, it can vary from about $40 a month to maybe $60 a month depending on supply and dose. Okay, we got a question that's coming in. Fillers? What are the fillers in the capsule? It's a very good question. It's something that we're concerned about in the pharmacy, and that's something that we have to look at for a lot of patients that come in that are very sensitive to a lot of things. So it's possible to make it in with any fillers if somebody's sensitive to it. The filler that we typically use, we just have a capsule, a low-dose naltrexone, and some methylcellulose. So it's just cellulose is just a plant fiber is what it is, basically wood fiber. So it's pretty much the component that is found in the vast majority of tablets and capsules that are made. So that's our typical standard capsule. We just use a white capsule with no coloring in it, and we have many of the people that we've worked with, mast cell patients, those are very sensitive, haven't had any issues with it. There's been a couple that we've had to use another filler like rice or whatever works. We'll figure it out and we can use that. So that can be individualized.
A patient is taking 3 milligrams at night, but she wants to try a higher dose. Does she take 6 milligrams, 2 capsules of 3?
Okay, the question is for a current person that's taking the dose, they're taking 3 milligrams. So what if if it's working decently but could be better, what would we do from there? Typically the docs would increase the dose from there, but I would say if going from, in that particular case, it would be a smaller jump. Going from 3 to 6 would more than likely not be really beneficial, we found too. It's what we found with the low-dose naltrexone is there's a pretty narrow window of benefit for those where you could go from 3 to 4 and the 4 might not work, but 3.5 milligrams could. So, we've found that over time we've had the best success with slowly increasing the dose, because sometimes just the smallest change can make a big difference. It's not it's just really kind of quirky dosing on it. It's almost the opposite of other things. It's just, so going higher doesn't necessarily mean better. So, I would say in that case, if there's room for improvement, going up slower would be one thing. And another option, as I mentioned earlier, going to twice a day, doing a low dose in the morning, is an option that we've had practitioners go to and use for many people that are maybe stalled out or at their particular dose, and we've added that in, and they've noticed a good increase in improvement in whatever their situation is. So, but again, that's the questions like that. That's the questions that we get asked with all those that work with it. So in the end, how it gets evaluated is, okay, what dose are you taking? What are your symptoms? What improvements have you noticed? What are you happy with? What would you like to see improve better? And with that, armed with that information, we dig our heels in with your practitioner and work at finding the dose that's going to be your best dose, your sweet spot. That'll give you the best possible results. And it's kind of an ongoing, just to let everyone know, that's kind of an ongoing process too, because that'll happen to those. They may be doing really well on a dose for some time, might be months, might be a year or two, and then they just may notice that it's not quite doing as well as they were in the past, and we would at that point look at reevaluating the dosing and going from there. We don't know exactly what's going on there, but it seems like the best that the docs that we speak with at the conference and stuff, I think the body, if somebody's got some issues going on, the naltrexone will heal at different levels. So a certain dose might work on a certain level of the immune system disorder that person has, and maybe it's at that dose it takes a certain amount of time, but it'll work through whatever that issue is, and then the body to heal and get to a better state. A little dosage change might be needed to just kind of open up another avenue or door to address that. We don't know exactly what's going on, but it's something that seems like along that area. So, but anyway, I guess we'll nice night here and nice night to be out. So we'll close it today. But just knowing that this isn't our only opportunity for conversation here, just to let you know, we do have an open line in the pharmacy, and just communicate with us any way you can, and with any questions on this, and we will get back to you and we will work with you. Thank you very much. Have a great night.